I have a few things that I want to get into before I start answering your questions. But first of all, if you're here, let me know that you're here by introducing yourself in the comments in the chat. And I'm just going to wait for some folks to show up. Here's what's happening today. I actually have a lot of really great questions, but here we are about 10 days out from the first day of school. Exactly 10 days out from the first day of school. Not that we're counting, because we are actually counting down the days to school. So welcome, you guys. If you're here, let me know in the chats that you're here. Say hi. I got a couple of great questions, and I do want to start with a follow-up on a couple of the videos that I posted earlier this week. First of all, Sunday, I want to thank all of you who kind of came back around and encouraged me and just were very gracious about all of the kind of the issues that I had this past week. I was really just in a funk, and I had to talk about it with you guys. The whole doubting yourself and self-doubt and self-sabotage and all of that. And I want to just thank you guys, because you just came all the way back around and encouraged me. And it was one of those things that when I posted that video, I was not looking for all of that encouragement. I really wasn't fishing for compliments. I wasn't at all, but it was just one of those things that I had to get off my chest. And I felt like I had to show that it's not all fun and games. It's not all an enjoyable journey. And there are times when we hit stumbling blocks, and there are times when we don't feel good about ourselves. And there are times where we don't feel like we're doing the right thing. But that's just part of it. And if anything encouraged me, guys, go back into the comment section from Sunday's video. You guys, I cannot believe how encouraging you all are. So thank you guys so much for coming back around and doing that for me. Hey guys, Elizabeth and Skarabi, you guys are here. Welcome. Listening from work. Okay. I'll make sure that I'm not too loud and rowdy and that I, attract too much attention. So here's what, another thing I wanted to talk about was the Perform Like a Mother video that I put up the other day. So, hi, Heather. That's the running community is amazing. I know, Jen, you are so sweet. And I got an email from Jen, and there's something about Jen, I have to say, every time you send me an email or I get some kind of comment from you somewhere, it's like I'm allergic because my eyes start watering and I get all teary-eyed. So it's amazing. It's kind of funny. So thank you guys very much. But another thing is the Perform Like a Mother webinar series that I started. I think the first one was July something. It was before I left for the lake. But I took this webinar series, and the second one is coming up in August. Well, it's August now. So in a couple of weeks. So if you guys are interested in checking that out, I highly recommend it, because it's the kind of thing that you need to hear. And it was what I posted, like I said, was just the tip of the iceberg. There was so much more, and everything that Dr. Justin Ross said was brilliant, and it was so encouraging. So I highly recommend. It's $25, and no, you don't have to be a mom, and no, you don't have to even be a woman to appreciate what was in that. So Dr. Justin Ross is a sports psychologist, and he works with all ages, speeds, levels. He works with Ironman triathletes. He works with high school track kids. He works with mother runners like myself. So you don't have to fit a certain demographic, if you will. So for $25, you get an hour and a half and you can read, listen, and all of that. So highly recommend that. That came up on Tuesday, late Tuesday. It almost didn't go up at all on Tuesday. So guys, if you're here again, one more time, let me know you're here. And if you have questions for me, throw them at me. I want to start with Scrabby. I'm glad you're here because you asked me a bunch of great questions recently in one of my recent videos. So I want to hit a couple of those. So thing one, let's start talking about the A, B, and C goals. Okay. So part of it was someone was arguing with me about whether or not you should set A, B, and C goals. Perfectly valid points. And I totally respect their side of that argument. I still stand by that having a series of goals, especially if you set those goals early on in your training cycle, that's going to set you up for that success. And that's part of where Dr. Ross was coming into. You set your goals, you get the motivation to try something, you set the goals, and you make your commitment based on those goals. And as your training goes, you don't know how things are going to go when you set those goals and when you start your training cycle, because anything could happen, right? Life can get in the way. You can get sick. Your kids can get sick. You might travel a lot. You might be called away from your training for a variety of reasons. So it's there's that kind of cut we make. But once we get to the day, you never know. You never know what's going to happen that day. Heaven forbid you get a call from your parents saying that someone is sick. Anything could happen on that day. So you make your goals based on that A goal. That is, everything is smooth sailing and you get exactly what you need out of that day. B goals and C goals are, well, what happens if things don't come together? Now, one of the questions I got from you guys is, so what do you do if you have a dress rehearsal race? All right. So for many of us, we have multiple races within a training season, and they're not all the target race. So let's just say, like Walt Disney World Marathon is my target race. It's not. I haven't signed up for it. No, don't freak out. Let's just say that the marathon is my target race. And starting here in August, I'm going to start base building for that. I'm going to start building up my miles. So what would the intermediate races, what would that have to do with that goal? Now, I don't want to burn myself out in the interim by racing too much. However, you can have a type of dress rehearsal race that's either, it can be shorter or it can be the same distance for your target race. So what would your goals be for that particular race? Okay, that intermediate race that you're using as your dress rehearsal. And you came up with a few really good goals. You can try to negative split. You can just, instead of making it about time, you can make it about energy management, pace management. One of the hardest things that I have ever found for whenever I'm in a race, in any race, is managing the first couple of miles and not blowing myself out. So do that, like take that first couple of miles and watch everybody pass you. It is disheartening in the first couple of miles, but you'll see all these people flying past you. And if you're paying attention, you'll notice that you're passing them later in the race. And that's what a negative split is for. So it's a lot harder than it sounds. So if you're starting off your race a lot slower than you expect to be, and you can use this even for training runs during your midweek easy runs or your long runs on the weekends. So you start off slower than you expect, and then you amp up the pace a little bit more in the latter half of the race. The reason negative split is so hard is that if we're not managing your energy and your glycogen levels in that first half of the race, then you may not have enough left in the tank to finish stronger than that. So negative splits are elusive. If you guys have tried a negative split, and let me know in the chat, because I'd love to hear how your personal experience is with negative splits. Do you do them? Do you like them? It took me a while to figure out how to achieve a negative split. And basically what I did is I'm really going to just kind of shuffle along in the first half, just, the tortoise and the hare kind of thing. So that is how to manage a negative split. You can do that in your dress rehearsal race. You can manage your paces by going, instead of doing the entire race at your target goal race pace. Let's say I'm throwing arbitrary numbers out. So let's say you have an average pace you want to hit in your target race of 10-minute miles. Okay. Then the dress rehearsal race, maybe you set for doing everything at a 10-10 split, or you start off your first mile a lot slower, like your training pace, like a warm-up pace, and then treat it like a tempo run. So do a mile at your target race pace or faster. Then somewhere around the aid stations or whatever, you take a little bit of time and you slow down. And then once you've recovered a little bit, you amp back up again and do another tempo mile. Depending on the length of your race, you can probably do that a few times. The key is here, though, with those dress rehearsal races, depending on how far out your target race is, you don't want to burn yourself out so much that you need a week or more to recover from that dress rehearsal race, because that's not the performance, right? Your performance is on the target race day. So that's another way you can look at it. So another thing you can do would be, I had all these written down. What did I say? Oh, whether or not you want to deal with the aid stations, right? So if you're in a well-supported race, you treat that dress rehearsal like a well-supported training day, right? And you leave all your water bottles at home. You just carry whatever nutrition you have on you, and you test run the aid stations, because that's like a jockeying of position that, you don't always get. Well, you never get on your training runs, right? Unless you're running a race every weekend. So try to figure out how to manage the crowd, right? When we're out training on our long runs, and I think this is part of the excitement of a race day, we're not around other people really ever. We'll pass somebody on the trail and say, hey, but we're not running in the same direction with thousands of people. So you can look at it as an energy management, not just physically, but mentally. You have to mentally manage your adrenaline levels a little bit too. Coming up, is it next week? I think this coming week, I'm going to be talking about how to manage that morning on race day, and what do you do before your race even starts, because that nervous energy starts to kick in a little bit and you're like, I want to get my race started. So just a couple of thoughts on that. Another thing too is obviously carrying less, testing out your volunteers, or don't. See if you can, skip an aid station and manage your time better. How does that feel? So those are just a few of my thoughts on how to manage a dress rehearsal race. It's also a good time to practice your nutrition and hydration plan, right? So if you're going into a race that has, that has good support, good aid stations, you can look at what your planning on for your target race, and then try to make sure that works. And if it doesn't work, then you might have to change something. So especially during that dress rehearsal, well, this isn't working, so maybe I just need to either bring more water or whatever it is you decide you need to do. Those are my thoughts on the dress rehearsal race. Skarabi, I hope that helps you out a little bit, because that was one of your questions, and you had another one. I want to talk a bit about, we talked about negative splits. You asked about another question. You asked about another issue, and that is combining training plans, right? How many races would you suggest to get ready for a full marathon? That's a really good question, Courtney. And then I will come back to the other thing I was about to say. How many races? Okay. How many races? So if I were looking for a full marathon, it depends on what my goals are for that marathon. If it's your first full work yourself, I always suggest work yourself up to it. Going from brand new runner to full dopey challenge in a year, I have some reservations about that, because the human body isn't ready to take on that volume in such a short period of time. Okay. And Jen, you're absolutely right. I think it's more about the training runs than the races. If you're getting your long runs in, when you're talking about marathon, it's all about the time on your feet. It's about the mileage. If you want to throw in a half marathon or a 10 miler as a trial run, those are really good distances, but I wouldn't throw another marathon in there before, in that 6-month training plan. And I think 6 months is a long time to train for a marathon. If you have a solid base going, which means that you've been running for 6 months to a year before you begin marathon training, you should be able to manage that mileage relatively well. But if you're going from, in 6 months, you're going from 0 to 26.2, be very careful of how much mileage you're adding. And if you stick to the long run, whenever you do it, if it's on the weekend, great. Whenever you do those long runs, try to stick to the training plan as much as possible, because each coach has a different philosophy. And while I don't think, 26 miles, which is what Jeff Galloway prescribes, is required, I think it's an idea that once you're out there, you can go that far. Or, once you get into the 22, 23 mile range, that it's, all you have left is, a 10K or a 5K. So if you're getting the mileage in the training runs, do you taper for a 10K? Debbie, that's an excellent question. So if you've got the long runs, whether or not you race is a different question, because I think if you were going to sign up for a race in the middle of your training plan, let's say you do sign up for a half marathon, you can use that as a dress rehearsal, like we said, but that is not the time to try to PR if you're in the middle of marathon training, because if you're going to try to PR, you want to have 10 days to 2 weeks to taper for that half, and then 2 weeks after to recover from that half. That's a month out of your marathon training. So that half marathon can be that 13 to 15 mile training run. And you can use that as just a well-supported training day. Okay, I don't have to carry my water today because I've got an aid station every mile and a half. Just a way to think about it that way. I hope that answered your question, Courtney. When are you doing that full marathon? Because I would love to hear when that is. Debbie, do you taper for a 10K? Yeah, kind of. Tapering for a 5K and a 10K can go either way. I mean, you're really not doing a lot. I look at it as every mile gets a day on either side. Okay, so the day before my 10K, I'll probably take the day off or go for a super easy shakeout run. Okay, so maybe a 15-minute mile. It's almost a walk. So I'm just shuffling. And that's your, day before. And then like up to a week, that's when I will lay off the heavy duty training. I won't do speed work in that week. I won't do heavy lifting or anything really crazy in that week before. I'll probably still run. In fact, I know I'll run. I'll run probably 3 days, but it's going to be shorter mileage. So that's how, with Fortitude, that's coming up in a few. When is that coming up? I should probably figure that out. That's in 3 weeks. Wow. Yeah, that's in 3 weeks. And so I will, my training plan, my coach has me tapering to a point. So I have like 3 and 4 milers, light to no cross training that week. And then the following week, because right after that, I'm going to Seattle for Beat the Blurch about 10 days later. That's a half marathon. And so that following week after Fortitude, I'm going to take that following week to really get into the taper for the half marathon. So once I hit Fortitude, I will have already been in taper for Blurch for about a week. And then I've got another week before I hit Beat the Blurch. So does that help, Debbie? Okay. I had another good question in here. We try to find race days that correspond with our long runs and training to help pass our time and manage our time more like a training run. Yes, it is nice to have core support to get those long ones done. I have found, Cindy, that with training runs like that, I just do not have the emotional or mental self-control to keep myself slow. I'm terrible at that. So I typically don't. Okay, so cool. The January 20th, Courtney is running the January 20th Carlsbad, California Marathon. Guys, wish her luck. Okay. Her first marathon. Courtney, go kill it. All right. Meredith, hello. Very nice. Jen asked, what do you think of the wine and dine medals that were released today? I like them. I liked last year's theme, the travel theme. I thought that was really cute because it was travel related as opposed to food and wine. And I thought but that's what Food and Wine is. It's an international food and wine festival. And I really liked that theme, but these are kind of cute and colorful. And I like that they brought in Lady of the Tramp. I think that's a kind of a forgotten movie. And you don't see much of that one anymore. What's the second one? Chef Louis and Sebastian for the 10K. I thought that was cute. I love the Ratatouille medal. That's the kids medal. Then you have Cogsworth and Lumiere. I will say, is that the challenge? Oh wait, what's the half marathon? Help me out, folks. I can't remember what the half. No, Mickey. It's Mickey, right? It's the green one with Mickey and I like the green actually. But I don't know. Cogsworth and Lumiere, I think, is overdone, but that's just me. That's your 2-course challenge thing. I guess that's the theme. But okay, that's the only one that I'm like, okay, I've been there, done that. That's what I think. I think they're cute though. I think they're very colorful. I really like that. So, all right. So there you go. There's I have to go back to, I have another, I don't love them. Linda says you don't love them. I love that they have, okay. I do think they will. Yes, I think you're right, Linda. I look at them online and I'm like, well, they look really small and kind of lame, but they're not. Once you once you look at them in person and you have your hands on them and you feel the weight of them and you've got them around your neck, they look very different. So I think they're going to be pretty fun. And I think once you run it, I think that goes with any medal. Once you've run it, you appreciate the medal more. But I'm with you, Linda. Yeah, I think they'll look better in person. Yip says something about I'm running. Where you said something else earlier. Running 95K every week at this point, which is about the same as 10K. Should I still taper for my 10K? To be able to go for a PR. I would recommend, yes, if you want to PR your 10K, take that last week before to rest. Not rest, but, keep your legs moving, but don't push it. So drop your speed work, drop your leg day, and make sure you're well rested and well hydrated to get that, because maybe do a couple of strides, like at the end of your runs, just a few of them, 4 of them, and then you're good. So the half medal has a national park feel to it. You know what? You're right. It does. That is kind of cute. I didn't think about that. Okay, guys, I want to go back to this other question that you guys had. If you have other, come in the comments. What was I saying? Oh, planning mashup. Okay, so one question that Skarabi asked was, how do you feel about a newish runner, in her words, combining training plans for effectiveness, basically? If you don't like this training plan perfectly and you don't like this training plan, but you like elements of it, can you mash them up? I've done this. I will totally tell you that I've done this and I've failed at it and I've succeeded at it. So I've gotten into a point where if you do this, you might get into an overtraining situation. If you do this the right way, then yes, you might be able to mash them up, but it's so easy to say, well, X plan over here has 3 days of running and Y plan over here has 7 days of running. I'm just going to go and end up with 5 days in the middle. Well, you can do that to a point. However, each training plan is written by different sets of training plans are written by different coaches. These coaches have different philosophies. And as a result, the focus of each plan is going to be different. Jeff Galloway, for example, many of you guys know our run walk programs, and he has a set interval and you stick with that interval and you can adjust it based on what your goals are. Well, the reason he's running, he only puts 3 or 4 runs up a week is because during those runs, you're pushing hard on the run interval and your walk is a good clip. So you're pushing hard. It's an interval workout every single time, which is why he has those rest days in between. So if you're doing the Jeff Galloway program right, you need that day off in between, okay? Excuse me, not right, but as he has designed it, okay? Does that make sense? Then there are other programs that you're running 6 or 7 days a week. Higdon is 5 days a week. The Train Like a Mother Club plans are 5 days a week. The big difference in these two philosophies is that Higdon has 3 or 4 strong efforts a week, and 1 easy run, and I think maybe a long, slow distance run. But his plans are super short. For a marathon, they're 18 weeks. And it's doable, but you are dropping everything else in your life and focusing on your training. There's not a lot of room for error and for life to get in the way. We talked about it earlier. We talked about it at the top of the hour. Life gets in the way. What happens in that 18 weeks if you have to drop one? The Train Like a Mother Club, on the other hand, those are So the Dopey Challenge is training plan is 26 weeks, 5 days running a week. But Coach Mary Catherine Fleming designs those heart rate plans to where you can run 5 days a week because your heart rate is not exceeding 140 beats per minute. That's hard because you're going much slower than you think you want to be. Okay. That it's a completely different training philosophy. I highly recommend it because boy, howdy, does it give you a reality check of what a slow, easy run really is. So if you're combining plans like that, it's like you wouldn't take the heart rate training plan, run 5 days a week at a super high level. Okay. That just leads into overtraining. So every time you are pushing your heart rate into that threshold, zone 3, zone 4, you are lengthening the recovery time that you're going to need before you run again. Okay. So if you're looking at your training plan and saying no more than 3 hard efforts a week. Okay. As it stands, I'm running 4 days a week. All right. So my long run is considered a high effort because it's long. I'm out there forever. It only feels like forever. I'm really only doing 10 miles so far. I'm not training for a marathon is what I'm saying. Not the just. I'm just saying it's like, it feels like I'm out there for hours. I digress. So my long run is one effort. My speed work is another effort. My Monday easy run is still considered one significant effort. Okay, so those are my 3 runs. And then I have basically an optional 4th run on Friday. I almost always take the option because, I almost always run. I take the option to run because that's Friday is 3 or 4 miles. It wears my legs out and gets me used to running tired on Saturday for my long run. Why is that important? Because as I get into longer distances and training for things like wine and dine, I'm going to be running on tired legs as I go. It's a good feeling to learn. It's good to know how that feels as you are training for the things like this, which is why Jeff Galloway, for example, has those simulations, right? He's got your dopey simulations. You're running 4 days a week. You don't have a lot else going on. But if you're going to combine your plans, first, look at how many efforts can you afford in a week. Okay. Second, how much can you personally realistically do within a week? Again, guys, our training doesn't exist in a vacuum. Our running doesn't exist in a vacuum. And that adding too much is going to do 2 things. It's going to lead to overtraining, and it's just going to get in your way. It's just going to get to a point where it's too much to think, okay, well, I've got to do this and I've got to do that. You can get away with, and I think, Skarabi, what we were talking about, I'm finding Galloway too easy. I'm not really pushing it on every run like an interval. So personal feelings here. Okay. My personal feeling about Jeff Galloway's training plans. I've tried them. I'm tempted to try them again because I didn't like it the first time, but I didn't get it. His philosophy is that run is a super hard run, not all out, but you're really pushing pace. And then when you're dropping to that walk, it's a good clip. It's a brisk walk. You're letting your heart rate come back down, but then you're coming back up and you're working hard and then you're coming back down. That's what I'm understanding about it. If anyone else who has done this can help clarify that, let me know. The weight can be at much, I wouldn't remember. I had a lot of time on Star Wars weekend. Okay, I gotcha. So I hope that helps a little bit. I think The reason why Jeff Galloway's programs are so popular is because they include walk. They include the concept of walking. So for a beginning runner, a novice runner who wants to get into running, it's a great entry level, right? And then they find that it works, and it does work. There are a lot of stories out there. People switch from a conventional running plan where you're running constantly and consistently to a Jeff Galloway run walk program, and bam, they are dropping not just minutes, but dozens of minutes in some cases off of their PRs. It's arguable that it's probably one of the better programs. However, there are transition things that we want to be careful of. So what do you mean about overtraining? Yes. Elizabeth, I want to come back to that. So one of the things about the run walk program is the transition from the run. You can accelerate just fine into that run, but it's how are you decelerating back into the walk, and how are you walking? Okay. If you're jamming your heel into the ground just to pull yourself forward, that's going to lead to some hip issues. So look at your walk stride, listen to your feet. So when you're up in that run, you're pushing with your glutes. When you're down in that walk, you're working very efficiently. Okay. So the less impact you have on your body, the safer it's going to be for you in that up and down transition. Okay. Like the run walk, unsure how you feel about the plan generally. So one of the things I want to let you know, the long runs are only every 2 weeks. Maybe what I need started. Maybe, yes. Again, run every week. I would suggest, because there's a method to his madness there. So let me repeat, because I don't know that the chat's going to be available. So the long runs for Jeff Galloway are only every 2 weeks. And what she's saying is that maybe what I need to start out, but I'm not such a fan. I think I'd rather have some long runs every week. That's hard, isn't it? It's so hard. And I think this is where I struggle too. It's hard to trust the plan. Okay. It is hard to trust that the person that has forgotten more about running than I will ever learn, to trust that makes sense, right? Why would I run a long run every other week? That I can't answer, but I can tell you that he probably knows what he's doing. If you want to run a long run every week, then there is an adaptability in that plan. I think if what you want to do is add a long run, maybe double up. Okay. So let's say this week your long run is 8 miles. And then 2 weeks from now, your long run is 9 or 10 miles. Somewhere in the middle, in that off week, add that long run, but drop one of your midweek runs. So you're still running 3 to 4 days a week, but don't push it and just add a long run in as an additional run. Switch it out for something else and make sure you are taking a full rest day the following day. That's how I would adapt it for myself. Again, not exactly knowing what Jeff Galloway's philosophy. Plans with 10-day cycles, and what you were talking about, these are 10-day cycles instead of 7. Yasso and Higdon have these. I don't know anything about those either, because I've basically followed 1 or 2 coaches for my entire running career, Christine Hinton and Mary Catherine Fleming. So, so the 10-day plans. Okay. No, I know what you're saying now. So instead of a 7-week cycle where you have, a 7-day cycle where you have your long run every 7 days, your 10-day cycle is you have a long run every 10 days, which puts your long run, correct me if I'm wrong, in the middle of the week, every other week. Does that make sense? So that's one way to do it. Elizabeth, I want to go back to what you were asking about overtraining. Overtraining is the danger that we all face when we push too hard in too short a period of time without adequate rest. So it gets to a point, you start noticing it when you're walking up your stairs and you're like, oh my gosh, that was so hard. Why is my heart rate up? And why am I breathing hard? Okay, that's one indicator. Another indicator is that you constantly feel fatigued. That is overtraining. That's basically your body is forcing you into a position to rest. It's telling you, you need to stop pushing so hard, because if you don't, you will end up hurt and your body will go into open revolt and it will say, we're done now. And that's your first indicator that you're flirting with down the line injury. So for however long it takes you to get into that hole, it's going to take that long to get back out of that hole. Overtraining is, it feels like for me, I take a nap in the middle of the day and I feel like it's an elephant sitting on my chest. Like I can power nap like nobody's business. But if I end up like falling asleep on the couch in the middle of the afternoon for 2 hours and I can barely move, that's an indicator that I'm overtraining. So that's one way. Getting up in the morning to go running, feeling that feeling of, gosh, I don't even want to do this anymore. That's overtraining. Where'd it go? Too many runs in a week. So it's not about how much running. You could run every day. You could absolutely run every day. It's possible. I don't recommend it. I personally recommend it taking at least one full day of rest, or at least non-running, non-high effort every single week. So my rest day is always Sunday, and I'll still go out for a walk, but my rest day is almost always Sunday. I don't do any cross training. I don't do anything crazy. I might go hiking, but it's rare. But otherwise, I allow myself, oh, nope, can't do yard work. It's my rest day. That's how I get out of doing stuff around the house. So that's kind of, Sunday is long run day for you. Yeah. And I know a lot of people will take their long run and put it on Sunday, and that's pretty normal. I do my long runs on Saturday because I really like having that Sunday off. And it also comes from, back when I was going to church every Sunday, there was no way I was able to run in the morning because I was on the worship team and I would have to be there at 7 o'clock in the morning. There's no way I can get a 10 miler or even a 6 miler in and be ready for worship team on Sunday. So that's part of it. So how many runs can you do in a week? Sorry, I lost my train of thought there. You could run, like I said, every day. I wouldn't recommend more than 5 days a week. 6 days a week is pushing it. But those efforts are all super slow, super easy, right? You're not pushing that effort level to you're not redlining your effort every single day. So if you take Monday and you redline that effort, then you take Tuesday off. And then Wednesday, you're redlining that effort again, or getting up there, on any one of these runs. And then you do a super easy run Friday, like that. This is what I do, super easy run Friday. And then your Saturday or Sunday is your long run. So if you're taking that time in between to not run, because that's something else, to not run, then your body can recover from the running. Okay, so there's that. You can still work out 6 or 7 days a week, right? Go for a light walk. do some cycling, do some swimming on those non-run days. Again, it's about effort. If your effort is too high, and this is the trouble I always ran into with triathlon, because I wanted to be done, so I would push effort, right? Excuse me, guys. I wanted to be done, so I would push effort, and then I would be exhausted. And especially when you get into two-a-days, those are fun, guys. Those are fun. Two-a-days are fun. Where you're, getting up and you're swimming in the morning, and then you're going to run in the afternoon, or you're weight training in the afternoon. Those are tough. So that's when it's really easy to get into the overtraining hole. Elizabeth, did that answer your question? I know I was kind of all over the place. Hi, Dave. I saw that you came in. Hello. Welcome. Meredith, I like to move my long run to Saturdays as Mondays are hard for me work-wise. Yep, take the break. Oh, good. I'm glad that helped. Other questions, you guys? Did I cover everything? Did I cover Scarabi? I know you asked a bunch of great questions, and I hope that I covered what you needed. You get up at 5 on Sundays, and by 5:45 you're in synagogue. Wow. Yeah, that's hardcore. Good for you. There was no way that I was getting that done. I also like I think the other thing I like about having my long run on Saturday is that I get Saturday night off. So I can stay up a little late on Sunday. This is now I'm in between churches, if you will. I'm looking for a new church in the neighborhood. So I think that's part of it. I like to am I ready for Blurch? It's so funny. I'm not sure. Cause I'm looking at Fortitude, which is in 3 weeks, and then Blurch is 4.5 weeks away. It's a half marathon. Coach Christine has me really training for Fortitude first for the 10K. And that's where my focus is right now. Actually, I'm just at this point hoping to finish the summer strong. We have this week, my son's in camp, and next week he has the whole week off before he goes back to school. I'm ready to see you beat the Blurch. Does that count? It does count. I gotta go back to that. Yes, you covered everything. Thank you. I'm glad I did. And I don't always smell so great in synagogue. I love that. Yeah, I would have to bring stuff with me. So I don't know. Am I ready? I think it's happening. It's funny. I was joking with Karen on the Facebook page on Gerald's post. Gerald posted that he's doing a meetup in Paris. And it's like, okay, yeah, whatever, rub it in. So Karen and I, while all of you guys are getting ready to go to Paris, Karen and I will be beating the Blurch. So that'll be fun. So anyway, what another good question from Elizabeth. With the run walk method, how do you know what your run walk ratio should be? Guys, help Elizabeth out. Let me know. Just drop in the comments if you follow the Jeff Galloway's run walk program. What is your ratio? Because that is truly elusive. I think it's elusive to everybody, and you don't even if you are following the plan. I know, Jen, I'm gonna call you out here a little bit because I know you do a 3-to-1 run walk, and you've been playing with a 4-to-1. I love that. I want to get so Meredith, you do 90 seconds running, 30 seconds walking. I've heard that's common. I'm recommending for one person, I'm recommending a 1-to-1, just as we're getting back into getting some running legs back, and no more than a 2-to-1 after that. So once you've gotten warmed up, that's just how I've been able to figure it out. I know 90 seconds, 90 to 30 really allows you to hit that hard, and then you have the 30-second rest. That's probably where I would start. Finding intervals is trial and error. Play with it. That's about as much as I can give you. I don't even remember. The first time I did Jeff Galloway was Avengers in 2015. I don't even remember what I did. I want to say it was something crazy like a 9-2 or a 9-1 or an 8-2 or something like that. It was long, and I don't know where I got this idea. But because I was a consistent runner and I had just finished Ironman, I was in recovery. So once I started training for Avengers that year, I needed to not push it. So I can tell you that the 9-1 or the 8-2 didn't really work all that well for me. Just my own little thing. Some say 45 to 45. Usually just run until warmed up and then use the ratio when I needed to. Okay, that's good. That's good to know, Meredith. Do 2-1 or 3-1 for my longer runs. Found it harder to restart running, doing those shorter intervals. And I think, yeah, guys, that's exactly it. Like, I think that's why it's so hard for me, because once I start running, I find a groove. And I don't want to bust that groove by slowing down to a walk. I'll do that if I'm pushing really hard on like a tempo run or something like that. So once I finish my tempo, I'll come down in my recovery. I might start out at a walk, and then I'll start back up to a slow jog, and then I'll hit my second tempo. Things like that. But yeah, so 2-1, 3-1. When I find I can stick with intervals well, I try to increase them. That's really where we start, isn't it? So if you can find an interval that you can live with consistently, and again, that 60-30, 90-30, 2-1, that's a good place to start. And then if you want to run more consistently and run longer at a time, just start leaving the walk interval the same, but run longer. Okay? Yeah. That's as best I can do. Sorry, Elizabeth. I hope that helps a little. Okay, good. Yeah, and the Galloway, what did I have to do for Galloway? So I looked at his training plans from the Run Disney website, and they're 3 pages, not including the actual plan. And I didn't get it either. And I do think it's just like everything else with this running journey, it's all individual. It's what's going to work for you, and it requires some trial and error. And that's the best I can do on that. So I bought the book. I bought the Run, Walk, Run Method by Jeff Galloway. And it's helping me demystify this a little bit, which is why I might want to start this kind of plan. I think if I do Star Wars, well, it's not if. We have to do Star Wars. If I don't do Star Wars, my son's going to run away from home, because we've been talking about it now for 3 years. So I think what we'll do, because my son likes the run walk, he likes knowing that he's going to have a little break in there. And that's what we did for Boulder. So when we do that, I think we'll probably get in there and do some stuff, do some of the run walk intervals. I have no idea. There are pacers used for Run Disney. Yeah. And I think the pacers use 90 to 30. I think. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. All right, guys. What did the coach think? Okay, I think you guys are talking. I love it. Look at you guys. I'm just going to watch you guys talk. I'm kidding. Okay, I'm going to wrap it up here in about 5 minutes. But before I do, any other questions? Guys, this was great. Great conversation today. What is coming up this weekend? So I did sign up for the virtual short series, the Incredibles virtual short series. I have been in such a groove. Yes, Cindy, that's right. Gerald does have a great on Res Runs. Check out the channel Res Runs and look up Magic Mile. So if you're doing a YouTube search, Res Runs, REZRUNS, Magic Mile. Okay. Search for that and he will walk you through what that magic mile is. That is what you can expect a goal pace to be. And then there are some calculations you make around that. Yes. Goofy, dopey challenges. So and I love the virtual. Last year I did the, what's the dog's name? Pluto. Jeez. The Pluto 5K series. And I loved it. I loved the medals. I loved the swag that you get with it. And this year I signed up for it and so did my son. And so he's doing that. But I didn't really dedicate any one of my runs this summer to the virtual shorts. I mean, I just go out and I run. So it's like, there's nothing special about my Monday 4-miler with strides. There's just not. But this week, I'm doing all of them this week. Okay. So I've got Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday are my runs this week, and I'm earning a different medal. I'm jamming it all into 1 week. So that's how I'm doing that. So that's my weekend update. Tuesday, I'm talking about, I just shot it yesterday. I'm talking about the race morning, how you manage nutrition and energy levels when you hit the start line. And then next week, I have a video. I certainly won't be live because my son will be home. And that will be his last couple of days before he goes back to school. Just saying. So what else? Any other questions, you guys? Oh, virtual races. Yeah, Star Wars half this past year, and although I enjoyed it, the race does not hold a candle to marathon weekend. Yeah, but it's Star Wars, man. I got to do Star Wars. That's been on my bucket list since they announced it the first year. So I also ordered a couple of extras from the Shop Disney for the virtual shorts. So that I'll show you a little bit of that too. And yeah, I like Meredith. I like what you say about this. I view virtuals as a way to break up some training runs and make them more fun. It's true. But yes, it's not marathon weekend. Marathon weekend is a different animal, isn't it? I mean, it's huge. Now, granted, I have not done any other weekend at Walt Disney World. The Disneyland races, and I know we're about to open a big old can of worms on that. No, we're not even going to talk about Disneyland races because they were really fun. Yes, you're right. I am looking forward to Star Wars. So guys, I think that is going to be it for me today. So if there are no other questions, thank you guys again for being here. You're amazing. If you are, let me know real quick if you're headed to Paris. I know a bunch of you are, Jen and Meredith, and all of you people who are, I know. And I think, Jen, I might take you up if there might be some room. If you can make room for me in your suitcase, I'd get the sticker on it that says heavy because you'd have to team lift it, but still. So there's Paris coming up in 6 weeks and Wine and Dine coming up. I don't know. Is that 10 weeks out? 12 weeks out. Yeah. Okay. So guys, have a great time. If you are headed to Paris, Res Runs is doing a meetup. So I will make an announcement here later because I know a bunch of you guys are going, and I want you guys to meet up. I want you guys to take pictures and rub it in my face that you guys are having a great time. So that's going to be it. Meredith is going. All right, you guys. Oh, dude, I'm leaving. I'm leaving. I'm logging off. Maria, I'm sorry. Okay. All right, guys, that is it for me today. So we'll see you guys on the next one. Look for me in maybe 2 weeks on the next live show, and that'll be it. Bye, guys. Go find your awesome. Happy running. Love you.